We're talking all sorts of sports, break it down in the lounge of course, whether it goes down on the pitch or in the park or on the diamond or in the courts. We're talking all sorts of sports, break it down in the lounge of course, whether it goes down on the pitch or in the park or on the diamond or in the courts. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge, it's the Oddcast Sports Lounge, it's the Oddcast Sports Lounge.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of the lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Hey folks, welcome back to the Oddcast Sports Lounge. This is the UEFA Champions League Final build-up. We're talking Liverpool FC today. We're talking about the final against Tottenham FC. When is it? It's tomorrow, Saturday, June 1st, coming to you live from the Metropolitano Stadium in Madrid. That's the home of Atletico Madrid. They are playing at high noon Pacific Standard Time, and we're going to be breaking down Liverpool for you. And like Tottenham, we're going to be doing the EPL, we're going to be doing the UCL, we're going to be talking injuries, we're going to be talking formations and tactics, then we're going to be moving on to the old psychic Mykich predictions / the elephant in the room, and also, as always, we're going to talk pros and cons. So stay with us, folks. It's going to be great.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
The first fact of the matter is we have to talk EPL. Again, I said it for the Tottenham one, but when comparing two EPL teams, I think we have to talk about the English Premier League season. Now, as we all know, and I mentioned in the Tottenham one, the Tottenham episode, is Liverpool finished second in the Premier League on 97 points. Just 1 point behind Pep Guardiola's Man City. And you know what? I'll tell you what, getting 97 points in the Premier League and not winning has to be fairly disappointing. 7 draws during the season. That's got to come back to bite you with draws against the likes of Everton, and then losing to Watford in the third round of the FA Cup. So, you know, there's always room for improvement, of course, when you don't get first place. But, you know, this is about as good as a failure gets for a season, I would have to say. The thing is, the high point is they won 30 games. They won 30 games and they won against tough opponents, and they really played good football. They stepped back a little bit from their heavy metal football that Jurgen Klopp had played in the previous seasons. We saw that with the Virgil Van Dijk winning PFA Player of the Year. The defense was absolutely astounding. Clean sheets like no one's business. Alisson Becker between the sticks obviously helps out with that. Matip and Lovren kind of sharing the second duties on the center back. So the low point is, of course, losing to Man City in the league. And frankly, I have to say that if we didn't qualify for the Champions League final, it would feel like a disappointment. Really would. The star player of the season is, of course, Virgil van Dijk. He's the star of the entire Premier League. But he absolutely played quite incredible. And the thing of it is I said that Liverpool, you know, tied 7 games. They also won a lot of games in the 90th minute, 85th minute, and beyond. And, I mean, that right there is indicative of, you know, maybe a team that didn't fully believe in themselves and believe in their ability to win games and close out games, especially when it's lesser opponents. You know, Divock Origi, for example, having to get that 96-minute header against Everton in the Merseyside derby. You know, there's definitely a few other ones. So you have to give Jurgen Klopp great credit for the season. He's an A-plus manager for me, easily. The thing is, we really, we eased Liverpool eased Fabinho into it. They eased Naby Keita into the lineup, and it paid dividends in the latter part of the season when those two guys really kind of meshed into the lineup. Fabinho, the Brazilian maestro, of course, playing a lot of center defensive midfield, but also providing those nice long runs. And then Naby Keita also kind of just being a jack of all trades, playing in the number 8 position. The hope for next season is, of course, to fight for the double again, frankly. And the acquisition of players isn't as big of a deal for Liverpool as I mentioned it was for Tottenham, but that's because Liverpool just spent $75 million on Virgil van Dijk, and I think it was $45 million for Alisson as a keeper. So those are 2 world records for those positions. So Liverpool might be staying a little bit out of the transfer market. We might get to some people who we might see vanish from Liverpool after this year and find themselves on other teams, but we might get stopped in by a psychic for, to get those things in order. We'll see. All right, so now let's talk onto the UEFA Champions League.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
So Champions League, I'm just going to go through this real quick. I think I spent a little too much time on the Tottenham one. I really like to break down the tactics and formation, and actually how they did in the Premier League I find very, very interesting, as they are 2 Premier League teams. Now, Liverpool had a tough group, quite similar to Tottenham. PSG, Bayern Munich, they played Bayern Munich in the later round. Sorry, PSG. It was Red Star Belgrade and Napoli. PSG obviously being a powerhouse, Napoli being one of the hardest places to go and win, and also Red Star being quite the same. So they started off really well, 3-2 win versus PSG in a hard-fought match. Then losing 1-0 to Napoli, dominating Red Star 4-0, but then losing to Red Star 2-0. Then losing to PSG 2-1 and having to basically win 1-0 on the last day against Napoli, and then hoping that PSG could take care of their business. So, by no means was it really an easy route for Liverpool, as it wasn't for Tottenham to get past the group stages. And, it didn't get much easier for them as Liverpool drew Bayern Munich. And the first game in Anfield might have been one of the most boring games I've ever seen. It ended up 0-0, but sometimes the scoreline doesn't fully indicate actually how the game went. This one was a 0-0 match. It was absolutely horrendous. I think Liverpool did create a few more chances, but it wasn't a great game. That being said, they went over to Bayern Munich and won 3-1 very, very, I wouldn't say decisively, but it wasn't the toughest match they had ever played. Then going on to Porto, who Liverpool have in the past been able to dominate. Aggregate of, I believe it was 6-1, 7-1, winning 4-1 and 3-0 against, 6-1 overall, winning 2-0 and 4-1, respectively, against Porto home and away. So this is the big thing, obviously. We all know Tottenham did a similar comeback against Ajax, but in all my years of watching soccer, I don't know if I've seen anything as unexpected as going down 3-0 to Barcelona when Liverpool, in my opinion, and a lot of pundits were saying this, in the first match of the semi-final Champions League, Liverpool actually played a much better game than the 3-0 scoreline would have indicated. But it was just Messi being Messi. He scores a phenomenal free kick, and Barcelona took advantage of their chances, and Liverpool did not. And this is going to be kind of a time-honored thing that we've seen in Liverpool throughout not only this season, but the past couple seasons. Chances. They're created from everywhere. We know it's a super creative team. From the defensive backs, from the defensive backs all the way moving forward. They have the ability to score from all angles and in all ways, shapes, or forms. But they don't always put it away. So that's going to be a big issue. So the 3-0 loss to Barcelona at the Nou Camp set up this crazy rubber match against Barcelona at Anfield. And, Liverpool did end up winning 4-0. Trent Alexander-Arnold played way above his age. I believe he's still only 20. But, taking that early corner kick really showed a bit of brilliant thinking from him, and Klopp's men, took home the win. Barcelona were absolutely stopped in their tracks. Anfield is a tough place to play. And the thing is, we kind of negate that now that we're going to Madrid, right? It's not like any team has a home field advantage, which is what makes Champions League finals so darn interesting. There's going to be fans traveling from all over. It's close in proximity to England, so, there's going to be a lot of good fans from both sides there. It's not going to feel like a home match for anyone, I don't think. That being said, I think globally speaking, there are more Liverpool fans, larger market team. So we could probably expect, just based on that alone, there might be a few more Liverpool fans, but I think Tottenham will be very well represented, and it's not going to be like playing in front of the Kop at all. And they used that to their advantage against Barcelona in the second leg. So again, really can't hope for much home field advantage other than the fact that you're a larger market team in the finals for me. So now let's go on and briefly discuss injuries, because I discussed it at length yesterday because the Harry Kane thing is so up in the air. Like we discussed yesterday, so many people who don't watch soccer were surprised to hear that he was even playing in the final, because the last they heard, he was out with a pretty bad ligament injury. I didn't think he was going to be available, and I was quite surprised, and frankly, very pleasantly surprised, as saying yesterday. I don't think any team likes to beat a team that's not at full strength, because there's always the asterisk over your head. There's always the asterisk over the trophy. Could they have won if he didn't play? So, hopefully Kane plays, but now getting on to the Liverpool injuries.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
We got to say Firmino is coming off an injury, right? Firmino hasn't played in several matches. Firmino is a very, very, very key component for a Liverpool side that has a lot of pace in it and not too many hold-up players. Firmino is really great. He's honestly just so instrumental to the entirety of Liverpool's setup. We'll talk a bit more about this when we get into the tactics, but as you can see here, we have Firmino playing there, and what he's able to do is he's not only playing the 9, being the front striker, but he also has the ability to drop down in here and chase back to get balls, but also be industrious and creative from the midfield, providing Salah and Mane those overlapping balls, and also Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course. So Firmino should be healthy. Everyone's saying that he's going to start. So, we're assuming here on the Oddcast that he's going to start. And it's he couldn't get healthy in time. I'll say that, or couldn't get healthy too soon. I'll say that for Liverpool. So the next one that we have to address isn't really an injury that is happening right now, but Mohamed Salah did get injured very early on into the match last year, and you have to wonder if part of that plays into the back of his mind. I'm not saying it should. I'm not saying it does or doesn't. I think there's a possibility, though. I mean, personally, if I was playing in a match of that magnitude, it would be almost impossible for me not to think of the Sergio Ramos tackle from last year, which we're not saying was dirty or wasn't dirty, but it was Sergio Ramos has a certain track record as a player. Very good defender, though. But you wonder if maybe Salah catches a pull early or does something early that might influence him going 100% for a ball. We never know. So now on to, let's talk some freaking formations, guys. Let's talk some formations.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
This one's going to be a lot easier again than the Tottenham breakdown. And the reason it's easier is because we know that Liverpool is playing a 4-3-3. So a 4-3-3, as you can see here, is you have your keeper, who's not included in the numerical formations. So you have Alisson, you have Virgil van Dijk, who's VVD, you have Joel Matip. Those are the two center backs. Then you have Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold playing across the wings. Now, these guys are so much more than defenders. I believe Andrew Robertson tied the record for most assists by a defender in the Premier League this season. They put in balls from all angles. Trent Alexander-Arnold is one of the huge reasons why Origi was able to score that 4th goal against Barcelona in the semifinals. So these guys have a tall task ahead of them. As we mentioned yesterday, and we'll get into more when we do the comparative episode, which is the next one coming out, we're going to talk about the Trent Alexander-Arnold Robertson matched up against Danny Rose and Trippier on Tottenham, because those guys are going to be in such an intriguing battle. And I really think that it sounds odd to say that the game isn't going to be controlled from the star player or, from someone up the middle or a midfielder, but to say that a game is going to be won on the flanks or lost on the flanks, I mean, it's a fair thing to say. Of course, there are many other components to it, but the flanks are going to be important. But I digress. So the next part of the formation is the 3 in the midfield. Now, Liverpool tend to play one main defensive player with someone who kind of goes a little more forward and then someone who is able to help that central defensive midfielder if they need to, but otherwise they're kind of playing in the midfield. So it's either, what I've seen from Liverpool in my research is it's either been Henderson or Fabinho Sometimes they'll throw Milner in, but not often, to play that central defensive midfield. I think it's going to be Henderson or Fabinho. That being said, I think that in midfield, it's Gini Wijnaldum is going to play right in front of Henderson on the right. And then you have either, I think it's going to be Naby Keita getting the start, but you never know. Liverpool, the one thing we really don't know about is their midfield, who they're going to use, because they have the availability of Henderson, they have the ability of Gini Wijnaldum, they have Fabinho, they have Naby Keita. I think Lallana is healthy again. They have, Oxlade-Chamberlain. What if he's healthy again and he gets some redemption for not being able to participate in last year's final? You never know, and it's going to be really interesting to see. So on to the front three. This is what everyone talks about. This is the exciting aspect of Liverpool. And they do get they get a lot of praise, and rightfully so. But the driving engine of Liverpool is the names I just mentioned. I mean, these guys just know how to create space and really are brilliant, really electric and dynamic when they get the ball at their feet and creating runs for each other. You have Sadio Mane on the left flank. Absolute dynamite. You have, as we said, Bobby Firmino in the middle, and the Egyptian king, Mohamed Salah, down the right flank. So, you know, everyone who watches soccer knows about these three guys. It's like talking about Harry Kane, Son, and Lucas, or Harry Kane, Son, and Eriksen. They're a dynamic front three. The thing that needs to be said is, how does Poch address these? Pochettino is the Argentinian manager of Tottenham. Now, he can address it in a number of ways, and again, we're going to discuss that more in depth in the next episode. But what Liverpool need to be careful of is letting Dele Alli, as I said, who's going to be playing the number 10 role, which means that he's going to be playing in central midfield, but kind of more attacking, is he's going to probably man-mark someone from the midfield. Or maybe even Firmino, maybe even Bobby Firmino, because, as we said, Firmino does great distribution from the number 9 position. But Dele Alli is going to man-mark someone, and that's going to negate them. So Liverpool is going to need to either drop back and create another outlet to get around Dele Alli, or something along the lines to drive the ball towards the flanks to Sadio Mane, to Mohamed Salah. And again, the one thing that Tottenham also has to be careful of is, as Sadio Mane is absolutely wonderful, and when he gets the ball on his right foot, it is dangerous. But this man right here, when he gets the ball on his left foot, it is one of the most magical things that I've seen in my football watching days. And he has the ability to create, but also he possesses massive control and power with that left foot. So if Mohamed Salah can turn it back and get it on his left foot, Hugo Lloris is going to have some work to do. So again, we kind of know what the back four is going to be. I'm going to say the back four, just, Robertson, Virgil van Dijk, Joel Matip, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. That's what it's going to be. And then the front three is going to be Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, and Mohamed Salah. But again, we have some other ideas. Maybe they go with an all non-English midfield, which would be really interesting, which would have Fabinho anchoring at the center defensive, and then you have Keita and Gini Wijnaldum, because they've worked well together. Gini Wijnaldum is a complete unsung hero of Liverpool. And then finally, maybe taking a more defensive route, as I said earlier, you have Henderson and Fabinho who are able to play that central defensive role. So it would be interesting to see them in the lineup together, actually playing along that wing. And then you have a more attacking guy in Wijnaldum or Naby Keita on the other side. So that kind of compensates for them. But you know what? Either way, again, Alisson's going to be between the sticks. Virgil van Dijk, Matip, Robertson, Trent Alexander, Bobby Firmino, Mohamed Salah, and Sadio Mane are all going to be in the lineup. And I think Jordan Henderson will wear the captain's armband. And play in central defense. So, all right, now let's talk about why we think Liverpool is fire. Here's why Liverpool's fire. They play this high-pressure, highly driven form of football that is quite compelling on the eye. And you know what? The results have spoken in volumes. Jurgen Klopp has taken that team from kind of being the 4.5 star, just below, City, Chelsea, Man United, to being a legitimate contender, not only in the Premier League, but on the world football stage. Now, the pros, this is good news for Liverpool, because when they score early, great things happen. And if Liverpool could score within the first 15 minutes of this match, that is going to have Tottenham on the back foot, because then Tottenham have to send men forward, right? And what does that mean? If you're sending men forward, that means there are spaces in behind. So if Liverpool can score first, I think that this actual pro of sending a bunch of men forward actually plays into their advantage. Another thing that I find fire about Liverpool is their much improved defense. As I said before, Liverpool wasn't really a clean sheet team, even for Jurgen Klopp last year, I would say. This year they achieved a tremendous amount of clean sheets. Virgil van Dijk has been absolutely masterful in anchoring that defense. Joel Matip is growing, and the young Trent Alexander-Arnold and the industrious Andrew Robertson have been just magnificent, both providing and in defense. And again, the midfield of Milner basically plays wherever the heck he's needed and does an absolutely phenomenal job. So I think the Liverpool's defense I find much more fire than in recent years. The final thing I find fire about Liverpool is their ability to counterattack, right? So what this means is that behind that defense that I just spoke about, they are able to push men forward and really put pressure on the opposition. Let's see if they're able to do this. If they are and they score early, they will be successful. All right, so now we got to talk about some of the negatives.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
All right, we're bringing the hat out again. We got to talk about the cons. So again, what I really like to do with pros and cons are, I think that the things that actually are the pros can be also addressed as cons. Now, I say that to say this. I said that Liverpool are going to be great if they score 15 minutes in. But Liverpool is notorious, and I've said this numerous times in this program, for shot creation without finishing. They create so many chances via Sadio Mane, via Bobby Firmino, via Mohamed Salah, but time and time again, they don't seem to maximize off of the amount of chances they got. Now, I'm not saying if you create 7 chances in a match, you have to finish 6 of them or 7 of them. I'm saying that if you create 14 to 18 chances a game, you should be making the keeper make some more saves, or at least not putting it right at the keeper. And I'm not going to call anyone out specifically on Liverpool, first of all, because I don't think they give a crap if I do. Second of all, there's no one there who's really solely guilty of it. I think that sometimes when you are such a great shot creating team, you kind of have this mentality in the back of your head that, even if I don't get a good shot this time, I'm going to get more chances. So maybe you don't commit to it as much as a player who's on, let's say a Newcastle that doesn't necessarily create as many chances. Big shout out to Rafa Benitez in Newcastle. I believe their main striker scored 10 goals. I'm blanking on his name this year. But he has to basically take advantage of the 2 or 3 times he's going to see the ball in a good position. Whereas if Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah, Bobby Firmino, Jordan Henderson, they see the field so open all the time that they can almost always get a shot off. And that same positive can be a negative because you get complacent because you have so many darn opportunities. Now, again, I want to bring up another positive to talk about a negative. The counterattack thing. Now, I don't think Liverpool want to play too heavily invested in just counterattacking football because you do not want to invite the Spurs forward. You do not want to invite them forward. And they'll invite themselves forward. But if they have Kane healthy, if they have Heung-min Son, if they have Dele Alli, if they have Sissoko pushing through, making those long runs, passing it off to Ali, Christian Eriksen, forget about it. You do not want to invite a brutal attack like that forward. So they need to be aware that they have the defense to play against them, but they don't need to just rely on it. It needs to be an even distribution of attack and defense. The one other thing that I think can sometimes be a con for Liverpool is they tend to let the game get away from them. It seems that they just shut off for a certain amount of time. And in a game like the UEFA Champions League Final, you need to be on your toes the entire match. All right? So there's my pros and cons. And, I think we're getting a visit from someone. Hold on. I got to go check that. Hello again. Mykich the Psychic here. I want to give you several psychic predictions that I have for Liverpool FC in regards to the Champions League Final. First and foremost, I believe that this is Daniel Sturridge's last match as a Red. He's been wonderful for Liverpool, but his time is through. He doesn't see himself as a viable attacking option in Jurgen Klopp's future plans, and Jurgen Klopp feels the same way. Second, if Liverpool fail to take advantage of shot creations, can Origi be the difference maker, as he was in numerous matches this season? The Barcelona match, the Everton match, the Merseyside derby. I also predict that Alisson Becker must come through big in between the sticks, as I said about Hugo Lloris. There will be shot creation, chance creation, and there will be shots on target in this game. Tottenham and Liverpool are not boring teams.
Oh, Mykich the Psychic, will we see a blunder in goal this year?
Mykich the Psychic does not see a blunder happening on Liverpool's end, but potentially the pressure may get to Hugo Lloris. 2 final predictions from Psychic Mykich. The first being Alexander Oxlade-Chamberlain. He was stripped of his availability to play in the Champions League last year after sustaining a terrible injury. We think that Jurgen Klopp will give him a shot to get in the fold in the match. The final prediction from the Mykich Psychic is that Mohamed Salah will star in the game, scoring at least 1 and assisting 1 more, potentially getting the elusive Champions League Final hat-trick.
The Oddcast Sports Lounge.
Whoa, this guy keeps stopping by our studio. I have no idea who he is. He just sits on the chair. He doesn't have shoes on. This is ridiculous. But he had some good stuff to say. So you've heard it from Mykich the Psychic. We always like to finish it off with a couple takeaways and the old elephant in the room. Look, the elephant in the room is the same thing as the takeaway. If Liverpool do not win, this season will not be just a failure. This season will be one of the most lasting disappointments in these players' careers. They had a grip on the EPL title and saw it slip away. They have a grip on the Champions League final and cannot see it slip away. Now, the one thing that makes a Liverpool fan even more worried is if Klopp fails to bring it home, if the boys hope to fail to bring it home, does Klopp start to get the reputation as a manager who can make it to the finals but never follow through? And I don't think it bothers him, but reputations matter, folks. Reputations matter, and players want to play for a coach who's perceived as a winner. Jurgen Klopp right now is perceived as a winner, but if this happens time and time and time again, it's going to start seeming like he can get there, but he can't make the final pushover. So the final takeaway basically is Liverpool cannot fail to put away chances that they create. At the very least, they need to keep Hugo Lloris on his toes. They need to keep the shot stopper aware. They need to keep that back line of Vertonghen, Alderweireld, Rose, and Trippier on their toes. Anyway, as always, we got to sign it out with, when you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of the lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Thank you so much for tuning into the Oddcast Sports Lounge, folks, and stay tuned for the Champions League next preview and get ready for our live commentary on match day. Love, peace, and chicken grease.
We're talking all sorts of sports, break it down in the lounge of course. Whether it goes down on the pitch or in the park or on the domino or in the courts. We're talking all sorts of sports, break it down in the lounge of course. Whether it goes down on the pitch or in the park or on the domino or in the courts. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge. It's the Oddcast Sports Lounge.